Welcome to the Friends of Dan Music Podcast. I'm Dan Miles. You've been listening to the music of Bruce Gaitsch. That was called On the Way. It's from his first solo album, A Liar in a Windstorm. In addition to his solo albums, he's had a successful career as a studio guitar player, and his songs have been covered by a wide variety of top-selling artists, including Richard Marx, Madonna, Peter Cetera, Tom Scott, Chicago, The Fix, and Philip Bailey. I've really been looking forward to speaking with him about his work. Joining me on the phone from Nashville, Tennessee, is Bruce Gaitsch. Hi, Bruce. Welcome to the show.
Hi there. How you doing?
Excellent. Well, ordinarily, I like to start out by taking my guests back to their earliest musical experiences and working forward in time. But in your case, I want to do things a little differently. We'll still get to all that. But first, I want to play some of your music and talk about it. But before we even do that, I have somewhat of a unique situation here in terms of the show's sponsor, and that my association with them is what led to you being on the show. Whenever I hear about interesting new musical products or technology, I turn to my friend Uwe Reith in Germany to get his opinion, because he's always on top of these things. And when I first heard about Evertune guitar bridges, I asked him if he knew about them yet, and he almost immediately replied by sending a picture of himself with you at a trade show in Europe promoting their products. So how did you first hear about them, and how well do you think they deliver on their guarantee to keep guitars in perfect tune under any conditions?
Well, let's see. I first heard about them. My friend Tommy Denander told me about it, who, he's the one that, he helped get me over to Germany and the Evertune people to be hooked up with the VGS guitar people who, have in Europe at least, they have they're the only ones that put Evertunes on their guitars over there. Here in the States, we can put them on, have them put them on ourselves. But anyhow, they deliver perfectly. I have two guitars now with the Evertune bridge. One's my favorite old Strat, and now with the Evertune on it, it's even more my favorite guitar. Until I got this VGS, and I got a FedEx box with this VGS black guitar in it. I took it out of the box. It was in tune.
Wow.
Yeah, and it also has the true temperament neck on it, which is another whole story, but I'll just talk about the Evertune for now, because we love Cosmos and Mark. Those two guys are fantastic people. I got to meet them in Germany, too, and talk about it a lot, and saw it demonstrated for 7 days. And I got to tell you, I played a Evertune installed guitar over there for a week and never tuned it.
Wow.
And it's unbelievable. It's like I was talking to Luca there the other day, and I said, man, we'll have so much time up on stage, we can either run the lights or do the PA or maybe even bartend.
Yeah.
Because we won't be, guitar players tune every 5 seconds,
Exactly.
whenever you have a second, because they go out. That's just the way it is.
I was skeptical when I heard about it. I thought, how can that be? Because I've been playing the guitar since the 70s. And, I actually, I'd recently had Lyle Workman on the show. And the Musical Instrument Museum of Phoenix had posted a little video about Evertune and said, would you try this product? And I thought, well, that sounds interesting. I wrote to Lyle. They had actually sponsored his show. And I said, hey, have you heard of this? He writes back to me, not only heard of it, but he's their featured artist and an endorser on their website. So
Yep.
I said, well, he's on top of it. We'll be talking some more about Tommy Denander in a little bit. And, I agree with you about Mark and Cosmos. They've been good to me.
Great people.
So I want to thank Evertune for their support of this podcast. And if anyone out there listening ends up buying one of their bridges as a result of listening to the show, please drop me a line and let me know so I can mention it to them and hopefully get them to continue sponsoring the show. Well, getting back to the matter at hand, as I said, I want to jump right in and play some of your music and then go back and cover your history a little later. I'm going to play a track called The African Prince.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, from an album you did in 1997 called Aphasia. As a guy who listens to a lot of music, it's pretty rare for something to truly surprise me anymore. But the first time I heard this track, I was really struck by the use of dissonance in the harmonization of the vocal and horn parts. What's the story behind the composition and the arrangement of that track?
Well, the beautiful thing about being married to Janie is when she does vocal parts, I just let her do what she wants. And she's Janie Kluwer. She is so advanced musically that, I'm just a Joe Schmo here, and I'm lucky. I'm a lucky guy to have her say, "Hey, well, I can think of something on that." And then, and Mark, the sax player, that's just what he did, and it's just everybody. I started with the drums and me on acoustic guitar, and then added John Patitucci on bass, and then it just went crazy from there.
Well, it starts with a little smooth, funky groove, and then all this stuff starts to happen. These sort of Donald Fagen-esque vocals come in, and then this David Sanborn-esque sax part, and then you've got a rocked-out guitar, and then before the thing's over, you've had like violin solos and sax solos. It's almost like a bunch of different characters in a play or something.
It was a musical play, and the don't forget the dobro. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, here comes Mark O'Connor. Oh, Jean-Luc Ponty's here. Oh, Steve Lukather's here now. I just went back and listened to it like 4 or 5 times in a row. Well, let's let our listeners check it out. This is from Bruce's Aphasia album, as I said, and it's called The African Prince. I love the way the horns just sort of play around there at the end, and it gets really funky and everything. It's if you would have gone completely smooth or completely Thelonious Monk and made everything dissonant, but because it's a mixture, it's like a really interesting track.
Well, I'm glad you like it. The all the saxes at the end there. He sent me. Mark Russo did that at his house, and he sent me, the files. And at the end, I just turned them all on.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's multiple parts. I think the Doors did that one time. Soft Parade. They had a bunch of Jim Morrison vocals. They just turned them all on, and
yep.
Yeah. Well, let's completely shift gears and go away from the large ensemble sound to a much more spare project you did. In addition to Evertune, I know there's another product you feel equally strongly about, which would be McPherson guitars.
Oh, yeah.
Would you tell us about how you first encountered them and what led to the project you did specifically to showcase them?
Well, I was playing. We were rehearsing for Peter Cetera's first DVD comeback thing in 2003. We were going to do a TV show up in Chicago. I forgot the name of it, but it's filmed for PBS and everything, and it was a big deal. And we were rehearsing, and this guy, Gene Miller, the other guitar player, said, "Hey, there's this guy. I met this guy last night. His name is Matt McPherson, and he wants to know if we want to play his guitars." And I said, "Well, I have to play one before I can say anything." So the next a couple days later, at the rehearsal, there's two cases sitting there, and we open them up, and they're these absolutely perfect acoustic guitars. And we both picked one up, and we started playing, and Peter goes, "Wow, I can hear the guitar so much better," because we were just rehearsing acoustically with a piano and acoustic guitars and vocals. And he goes, "Wow, the guitars are so much louder." And I went, "And the guitars are so much better."
Well, visually, you can notice that the sounding hole beneath the strings has been moved up higher. So that's apart from that, what other differences are there in the construction of it or the playability of it?
Well, the necks don't touch the top of the guitar, so the guitar resonates from the base of the neck all the way to the end pin. So you get a lot more sound being moved. And the fact that the hole's up above the strings, your hand's not in the way of the hole, so it projects better. But the main thing is how well they're made and how perfectly thought out they are. It's somebody's finally thought about it enough to change it for the better. And there's a lot of people that are going to say, "Oh yeah, it's all gimmicks." Well, they're not a guitar player.
Yeah.
If you pick one up and say that, well, sorry, you just don't know what you're talking about. I've been playing guitars for 50 years now. I've got 4 incredible Collins acoustics that I thought were the finest acoustics I had ever played, and they were up until I picked up my first McPherson.
Yeah.
So now my Collins sit in the closet, and so unless somebody says, "Well, you got one that sounds a little bit more normal," I said, "Oh yeah, I got some great normal sounding ones." And I usually pick one up and play it for a bit, and they go, "Could you pick up the McPherson again,
Switch
please?"
back, please.
Yes.
Well, the funny thing is how many beginning guitar players have dropped the pick inside the guitar and had to turn it over and shake the guitar, and it lands on the strings. That's the first thing I thought of. At least it solves that problem.
Well, and also, like when I'm traveling with it, I can put my dirty socks in the guitar.
Oh yeah, right.
So they don't make my clothes stink.
Now, is this a mass-produced instrument or is it custom?
Well, there's 6 builders, and it takes them 6 months to make one, and they use fine machines to do some of the fine work, but the really fine things. But everything is by hand that needs to be. If it can be done better on a machine, like planed to a fraction of a millimeter, they do it.
Pride of construction, and it shows.
Oh, you have no idea until you go up to their where they build them, and there's 6 guys, and each guitar before it leaves the place has to be inspected, and it has to be perfect. If there's any kind of flaw at all, they have to do it again. And and I'm going, well, wait a minute. People can't even see that. Yes, but we they're building these guitars to last 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't want, they have to be perfect when they go out. I said, yeah, but as soon as somebody picks it up, they're going to scratch it. That's their problem.
There you go. Well, you did a CD called Sincerely.
Mm-hmm.
Every track showcases the guitar. I'm going to play something from it, but how did you go from hearing about the guitar, playing the guitar, to recording that CD?
Well, Matt McPherson had a record label, and he wanted some of his favorite guitar players to make CDs of showing off the guitars. And he called me and asked me to do it, and I said, well, only if I can do it the way I'd really like to. And he goes, well, of course. Well, how do you want to do it? I said, I want to make your guitar the focus. It's going to be the biggest instrument, instead of, because every time you play an acoustic guitar next to a piano or a drum set or something bigger, the guitar starts to get smaller in the sonic, when you're listening. And so the guitar was the biggest thing. The only other instrument is a harmonica, and my daughter plays a flute on a couple things, and my wife sings.
Well, one of my personal favorite tracks on the album is called Mia's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we listen to that? So it's going to be the McPherson guitar, your wife doing some vocalizing, and your daughter playing the woodwinds?
Yep.
Let's check it out.
So that guitar that's featured on that song is a 4-inch thick Macassar ebony guitar that I got to go up to the McPherson factory, and I picked out the woods for it, and it's a small guitar, but the sound is just, well, you just heard it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
A fantastic sounding instrument.
You mentioned your wife, Janie Kluwer. You had done an album with her called One on One. She's a classical pianist, the opera voice major, toured with Julio Iglesias, toured with George Benson.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not some guy doing some charity having his family on there. It's kind of...
No, I'm the lucky one getting her on there.
You know what's funny is she has a song on one of her albums called I Married an Angel. Is it safe to assume that's a work of fiction?
Yes.
And how old was your daughter when she played on that?
Let's see. 2003, 2004. Oh, let's see. 11.
Yeah, that's impressive too. So you want
well,
to...
Now she's in college and she doesn't play anymore, but she dances and does a lot of other things.
Well, many of the tracks on the album are just guitar, voice, woodwinds, but we also have to mention Howard Levy. He's playing on a few of them. Everybody knows him from Bela Fleck and the Flecktones.
Mm-hmm. And he's been around. I knew him back in the 70s, back in Chicago. We did commercials together.
Mm-hmm. And he does some nice stuff on there too. And like you said, a harmonica isn't going to, not only is it not going to overpower an acoustic guitar, but in blues there's a long precedent of harp players and guitar players, and
right.
He, of course, he's like sort of a world above. He's kind of like the Alan Holdsworth of harmonica.
Yeah, and he's been an old friend, and I just thought, okay, who would kill this? And I went, oh. So I just sent him 5 songs, and he sent me back 85 tracks of him playing.
Wow.
And every one of them is perfect.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, he went, I like this one the best, I like this one the best, I like this one the best. So,
yeah. I know. And Bela
he's a genius.
Bela Fleck, Howard Levy, Victor Wooten, Roy Wooten. It's almost unfair for a band to have that much talent.
That's for sure. Or just as much as Howard has. That's unfair, too.
Yeah, I know. It's just like insanely talented band. On your other albums, you've had a lot of first-class musicians. You've had Bill Champlin, Timothy B. Schmidt, Greg Fillinganes. You mentioned John Patitucci, even the late, great, and sorely missed Jeff Porcaro.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about one of your musical collaborators who our listeners might not know. You mentioned him at the top, which is a Swedish guitarist, Tommy Denander, another Evertune endorser. He's the third person in the picture that Uwe Reith sent me. You recorded a truly excellent guitar duet album with him called Counterparts.
Yeah, a long time ago.
About 1998, I think.
Mm-hmm.
How did you meet Tommy, and what led to the recording of that album?
Well, believe it or not, I met him on a Japanese AOR website. We had both signed in to this. This is before Facebook and stuff. And my friend over there, Takeshi Ito, said, you should meet Mr. Denander. He's really a fine guitarist. And so we just started emailing each other and talking via phone. And I said, well, let's do something. And so he sent me some tracks to play on them. I sent him some tracks to play on. And we never met until the record was a year old.
Wow.
Done. And but it was so much fun because he plays so differently than I do. And
exactly. That's when I heard you did an album together. I thought, well, how's that going to work? I first heard of him, I think it was a Jason Becker tribute. And then when I heard the track I'm about to play, which is called Quality Time.
No, it's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, it's funky. Do you have a clavinet going on that?
It's some keyboard player. I don't know. Tommy did that.
Yeah, and it's got, his, I don't want to use the word shredding, but, it's got his aggressive style. And then when you come in with the smooth octaves, and I thought, ding, 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 that's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, let's listen to that track so everybody can hear how you guys play together. This is from the Counterparts album, and it's called Quality Time.